This is the evolution of my knife-mounted survival kit. So let's start going through the items. Everything either fits in or on this sheath-mounted pouch here. Starting out with I guess the most important items. Here, emergency blanket, 87 by 59 inches. This is one of the bigger ones you can get. A smaller one would have made fitting everything in here much easier, but bigger is better when it comes to these emergency blankets. They're really not that big, and especially if you want to wrap yourself up in them or use it as a tarp or collect rainwater with it. You'll be much happier with this larger size. So that's your shelter. Water is usually your next priority. And here we got a Frontier water filter with a straw. So you just take the straw, stick it in here, and then put this end in the water and suck. And I believe it does something like 24 or 25 gallons, which should be more than enough in most cases. These guys down here are little towels, compressed towels. There's 2 of them. And you just put like a drop of water on this, and it uncompresses into like a tissue, like a Kleenex size towel. Actually, a little bit bigger than that, I think. So you got some options with that. That could be a fairly clean item for a first aid bandage, or maybe you can use this to pre-filter silty water. Putting it over the end of this, or maybe you could use it to, sort of drain dirty water from one container and just let it sort of like drip into a new container. So good options. A headband, whatever. So those are kind of cool. But I kind of include it mostly for the, as a pre-filter for this, for water, and as a first aid item. And so obviously, knife-mounted pouch. I've got the Cold Steel Master Hunter Plus as my knife of choice for my generic outdoors knife. I'm not somebody who treats my knife like a shovel or an axe, so I'm not concerned too much about maybe having a beefier knife. I got a secondary backup knife, mainly because I could fit it, and this used to be on my keychain, but I have something else different there now, and so I'm sliding this in for a little detail work. So I got 2 knives. This guy here, you might be wondering about, an unlubricated condom. Very important item. I also include this mainly because of water. So obviously this is going to be waterproof. And now I not only have a way to drink water and camel up safely at a water source without going through the trouble of like boiling it, but I can fill this up, and now I can carry water around in this condom. So that's why you want unlubricated. But you could also, if it was like just continuously rainy or whatever, you could also use this to store your tinder in. So say for instance, cattail fluff or like milkweed fluff, something like that. Whatever it is, your tinder, you can take a bunch of it, stick it in there, put that in your pocket, and then you don't have to worry about it getting damp. And speaking of tinder, we can move right on to fire sources. So obviously your main fire source is a lighter. I mean, let's be real here. The Air Force doesn't give their downed pilots a bow or kit. They use a lighter, and your backup should be another lighter, really. But let's say the worst happens, that gets lost or falls apart. I also got a Fresnel lens here, so that I can create solar fire, basically magnify the sun. And I've got a tiny little ferro rod right here for that. And of course, I got 2 blades that I can scrape it with. Let's see, moving right along, fire. Let's go to signaling. So signaling, obviously I got this whistle, metal whistle, aluminum, pretty light. Kind of wish it was smaller, but for now that's what I got. And I got this quite nice Olight iOS 3 or something. It's a 120 lumen. I've mentioned it before. I got another one of these. I got the same thing on my keychain too. It runs off of a AAA, so it's not much bigger than the AAA. Love this light, love it. So I got light source there, signaling. One of the things I took out had some tweezers on it, and so I replaced it with this pair of steel tweezers, which are really good. And also another light object that just could easily fit on that little split ring there. A little bit of a first aid item. Let's see, moving right along, we got the diamond sharpening stone. It's not a super high grit, but it should be enough to keep those guys in tip-top shape. And here, I should have this over. It's 75 feet of Kevlar trip line, 80-pound test. So that's my sewing thread. If you know your boots are having some tear apart issues or whatever, you can also use it for snares or fishing line. Speaking of fishing line, here is a saw. Obviously, it's kind of one of those not so great. I think it's probably like, I don't know how long that is. It's very much a compromise saw, but a saw nonetheless. Wouldn't necessarily want to take down any trees. But on the back side of this, of course you can't really see it. I'm not going to take it all apart, but I do have actual fishing line here, the good stuff, Vanish. I forget how much I put on there, but it should be enough to for an emergency situation. There's also an artificial worm kind of tucked in there too, and a handful of fishing hooks, and maybe 3 different styles of needle. And let's see here. Oh, and speaking of fishing, you kind of got it also hidden away in here. I've got like there's four flies basically. Their hooks are tucked away into a little bit of duct tape, and then I just sort of slid the whole thing right in between there, so that shouldn't be coming out. And last but not least, saw it when I moved it, got a little button compass there. So I think all of this stuff here, I mean, your bases are really covered. And with the exception of not having a like if I had a sleeping bag with this, it would just be a camping trip, because literally everything's covered. But short of a sleeping bag, I think the rest of the stuff here could keep me alive, and honestly pretty comfortable. You know, if you got clean water, you got a decent shelter, and one that you can put up in an instant. You can carry water. You got a knife to create other miscellaneous objects. You got plenty of fire starting capability. You can catch fish. I know a fair bit about what plants to forage. You got a compass for your navigation, a couple of different kinds of cordage, and you can keep your knife sharp. So, man, I think it's a great kit. I'm super happy with how this turned out. I do wish that stuff would fit better in there. I got more than I'd like hanging off the outside of it, but I don't really have any plans to change it. I think there'll probably be some tweaks here and there, but I think for the most part it's going to mostly stay like it is. If I could find a slightly bigger pouch, I would put that on there. Then I can put everything back in it and not have to worry about anything snagging. But with this lighter leash, everything's it's not going to go anywhere. So I feel pretty comfortable, walking through the woods, bushes or whatever with that stuff on. So that's it for this video. Tell me what you think.